Joe, hi, how are we? Thank you for joining. Bintu Agni, thank you for joining. Joe asking me, how am I? I'm good. I'm good. Trying to keep up with the ever evolving and changing situation here in California, where we've gone into another kind of not a lockdown, but we were slowly reopening, and now we're kind of slowly closing up a little bit. But trying to stay optimistic, looking forward to the 4th of July, no big plans, but grateful to be a citizen of the United States of America, grateful that I can wake up in a free country, and so looking forward to celebrating our country. I know it needs work. I know it needs reforming. I know it needs to change. And I look at that we're all in need of change. We're all in need of awakening. We're all works in progress. So that's how I'm feeling going into this 4th of July. But I'm super excited that today we're going to be talking with two people that I really like and that I'm really respect and I've really enjoyed. Allison Holker and her husband, Stephen Boss, otherwise known as tWitch. I've been following them. I thought I discovered them all on my own, just dancing. And then I told my kids and they were like, duh, everybody knows who they are. And I was like, oh, wow, really? I thought I discovered them all by myself because their videos brought me so much joy. I'm not someone who can dance well, but I am an admirer of those who do really dance well. And I had followed them over time and just thought that loved their family, loved what they were putting out into the world. And then in the last couple of weeks, I've really become interested in what they're putting out into the world. They've shifted a little bit off of their dancing and trying to use their platform to talk about Black Lives Matter, to talk about white privilege, to talk about the humanity in both of them and their family. So I thought that they'd be a really great couple to talk with before we head out to the 4th of July. We both kind of posted about on Loving Day. They gave tribute to that to enable them to get married. So there's a lot that I wanted to talk to them about, but mainly I think about how they're using their platform to inform, to inspire, to bring joy, and to move the conversation forward. And these platforms are just that. They're channels, they're platforms, and we can all use them to bring people together, to promote dialogue, to promote conversation, to inspire others. And that's what we certainly try to do here. And so I'm really excited when I get people to join in and who want to have those kinds of conversations. So Allison is going to join from her account. Oh, she's already there. My goodness. I was going on a minute early, but she is on time. Must be the dancer in her. Got to show up and connect. Hi.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you both?
We're doing, as good as anyone could be doing at this time right now. But we are excited that you invited us to talk with you and, have a conversation.
Well, I'm so excited. I was just explaining on here that I thought I had discovered you all by myself a couple of months ago, maybe it's a year ago now. And I had gone to my children and said, oh, I just found this couple. They're so cool. They're like, Mommy, everybody knows about them. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, we're glad you found us regardless.
Yes, I found you and I watch you. I don't dance with you. I know you kind of ask people to join in with you, which when I get kind of maybe a little bit braver, I'm going to do that. But I can join in the conversations that you've been having, which I've been so excited about as of late. And so that's really what I thought we could talk about. I really admire the way you've initiated a conversation on your platform, first about privilege. So let's talk about that very famous now viral video that you both did, and your experiences in our world were so vastly different due to the color of your skin. Were you surprised by the reaction you got?
I think I have to give a little bit of background to that video. So we're active on TikTok. We love TikTok. And I saw someone else actually use and make this sound, right? And when I saw this person do this video, it moved me so much because I thought it was such a great expression and understanding of the differences that we experience in life, you know, through showing the extremes, but also showing that there's a base, that it starts out with really small actions. And I thought it was really profound the way that this person was able to show the different levels of privilege. And I personally, firsthand, being white, growing up in a very different place than where Stephen grew up, I thought it was something that we needed to do to show that this is a real thing, because I firsthand have seen it, you know, and we didn't know. I never went about it thinking that this is going to be a game changer and this is going to go viral. I just thought it was a very big message that we at least wanted our followers to see and hear, that I myself have seen the difference being here, you know. So, you know, being that I am white, sometimes I think we have to sit back and just listen. Right. You know, because these stories that people are trying to tell us are very real.
Right. Yeah, and also just as impactful as it was also a shock to me. I've said this before, but it was also a shock to me because even though every question I put a finger down for every question, even the last two, I still would have put them down. That was so normal. That was so normalized for me that it was. I didn't think that it would have the impact that it had, just because I was like, well, yeah, that's just kind of how it is. That's how some of us kind of experience life, you know? So it's just like, yeah, I hear these questions, but like, yeah, I mean, I could, you know, I have tons of friends and associates that for us, those questions would be like, yeah, no question. Yeah, of course, you know, so, and it's just that.
Twitter, when you say that you were surprised in a way that people were surprised, what did that tell you? Did it tell you that, wow, people have no clue what someone like me goes through?
Yes, and further than no clue, it's just because everybody's experience is like very different, right? Yeah. And I think sometimes, you know, it takes a visual like that, and obviously society is like incredibly visual right now, you know. Right. So I think something like, even if we would have done that in an interview setting, I don't think it would have been impactful as just of that video that you can rewatch over and over and over again. And it's just that it just really painted a picture of a lot of people's experience and lack of experience, right? Because no matter where you are, it can kind of feel like a bubble. And I was born and raised in the South, right, in Montgomery, Alabama, born in 1982, you know, and I was there until 20. Right. So in that time, like in that bubble that I created as my world, right, there were just certain things that I thought were a little more normalized, and just that everybody knew. So yeah, you know, it's not even a situation that people didn't have a clue. They just really, you know, just wasn't there. It just wasn't their experience, you know.
That's why I think it's so powerful. And Allison, I saw kind of, I don't know if it was a day or two afterwards, you came on and started talking to people who follow you guys. Look at, you know, I know some of you have said you love to watch us dance, but you don't want us to be political. And you need to accept the whole of us. Mm-hmm. And you need to accept us because we're human beings. And I think a lot of people have experienced people responding like, oh, now you're political, I'm unfollowing. Right. And I myself have gotten that a lot. And I think I like that you were saying, go ahead and unfollow. But I think I'd like to ask you, did that surprise you that people really just wanted you to dance?
No, if I'm honest, I feel like I knew innately that that was going to be the response. But I think right there, by telling someone that they have to shut up in any kind of capacity, is a clear notion that they know there's a problem, but they don't want to have the discussion because it's uncomfortable. Right. You know what I mean? So all these people that are saying, just shut up and dance, or all lives matter, these are people that are trying to silence a problem that they don't want to have. You know what I mean? When these conversations need to be understood. And a lot of people were also saying, well, you were never political before. No, yes, absolutely. We've always, we're not by political, by chance of picking parties. That's not what it is. But the bigger problem is life. Like, we're a human race and we have a huge problem, you know? And I know from my side, to make other people feel comfortable, I didn't have those conversations because I was trying to protect them. But we've gotten to a point that we can't protect people because they don't want to have an uncomfortable conversation. People's lives are at risk at this point. And so I think just because you didn't hear me overtly say it on social media doesn't mean that I'm not having this conversation with family and friends.
Yeah.
You know, and just, I think a lot of times through social media, people feel like, oh, I know exactly who you are. I watch you dance. You've never met me in real life. You've never had a conversation. You've never been to my home. You've never met my family and friends. To know these conversations that we're continuously having, you know, I feel very grateful that I had someone like Steven in my life who is continuously educating me. You know what I mean? And not from a, you better learn this or this is how it is, but slowly bringing me in with me having patience and him having patience in what I didn't know before. You know, but I think when you call someone and you tell them to shut up and do whatever it is, like, you can't tell someone how to use their voice and their platform.
Yeah.
You can't do that to people. You can't tell someone the experience that they had or have not had. You know, our job is not to silence right now. It is to pay attention, learn, and educate.
You were saying, Allison, that you think also it's a time maybe to listen. And at tWitch, I was watching you in an interview where you said, well, actually, we need white people in particular to talk. We need them to ask questions because so many white people were afraid. And I know a lot of people said to me, don't go out there and start doing interviews. Don't go out there talking. I said, no, that's exactly what I want to do, because that's how we move the conversation forward. So in your mind, you know, like, is it better to talk? Is it better to listen? Is it better to initiate the conversation? And where do you think we've come in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I think that one of the key words you said there was conversation, right? Like, and conversation is, in essence, it's like it's a two action art form. The art of like talking, and then the art of actively listening, and not listening to respond, but actually listening to understand. Because sometimes you can listen and understand something, and it doesn't necessarily need a response. It's just something that you just like sometimes need to take away and think about on your own, and then maybe it comes up in conversation later, or maybe you just have an understanding of it and then you keep it moving. But I think what happens is you know, especially within these last couple of weeks, a lot of people, and I'm sure just like they were telling you to avoid the conversation, like, right? Like, not even the confrontation, but the conversation itself, because it's such a slippery slope into confrontation. But the thing is that when we're up against a system that we are trying to dismantle, whether it be racism, whether it be sexism, classism, like we are inherently, if we're going against a system that like we don't understand, we're going to slip up and say something wrong. We're going to have the best intentions, but we might say something that's a little off and might trigger a whole side, right?
Yeah.
But because you're, to me, at least to me, because you're operating from a place of love and wanting to understand, that's going to be part of the process. So then you get those mistakes up, and people actually see that you are trying, because you made a mistake, then you own up to it and you say, you know what, my bad, y'all. Moving forward, I'll do this, and then I'm going to keep it moving. It's not avoiding the conversation at all costs, because then that to me seems worse than getting out there and talking about how you feel, being checked on it if you need to, then coming back with corrected behavior. That's way better than avoiding the conversation at all costs, because it's, to me, the conversation is unavoidable at this point in time, you know? So, and I don't know if you felt the same way when people were telling you not to go out. You're just like, I don't know how I can.
Right. I mean, it just seemed to me to be the natural thing. And it's a conversation I had been having really in many ways my whole life, or a lot of it. And I just looked at it as like, oh, this is a different turn to it. But Allison, I wanted to ask you, because tWitch was saying that like when you guys did the video, he was surprised that people were surprised that he had, you know, every finger went down. What was the reaction you got? Were people like, oh my God, I'm like you. And I was surprised that he did that, or I like, ooh, I felt embarrassed or what?
I really believe that he was the perfect example to do this, because if you know him, and if he's like this gentle giant, right? Like he's got this calm demeanor, but he's powerful and he's strong, but he also is the kindest, most loving, sincere person you'll ever meet. And I don't mean that because he's my husband. Like, that's people that know him know, right? Like, what you see on TV is exactly who he is in real life. And he just leads from love, he leads from kindness. So to imagine someone avoiding him on the street just because of his color of his skin, I think that was like, oh wow, have I done that?
Yeah.
Have I done that to someone without giving them a chance? Because imagine you don't want to avoid him. You want to meet this guy. You want to love this guy. You want to be like friends with him, right? So now I feel like it was a chance for people to like think like, have I ever done that? Even if on accident. Like, there's so much of this is just taught to us over time and time and time that we might not even realize that we're doing it sometimes.
Yeah.
That I think that was a big eye opener to someone to be like, have I done that to someone that might be the nicest human? That person could be my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I saw you the other day also talking to Joe Biden. And I thought to myself, like, wow, this is kind of you're doing a lot of different stuff. I mean, you're doing this, you're having this conversation with your audience saying, you know, go ahead and unfollow me if you can't accept all of me. And then you're talking to the presumptive Democratic nominee for president of the United States. Why did you want to talk to him? And what did you take away from that conversation?
So I'm not going to lie. It was when I was given this opportunity, I was like, you know, I don't want to ruffle feathers. That's not what I'm here to do. But I was like, as a parent, I have always wanted to have these conversations. Instead of being someone that's like, be this or do that, blah, blah, blah. I had the opportunity to ask questions to gain a little bit of knowledge. So this is an opportunity that there was no way I was going to pass up on, because I know for myself that I want to deliver to the best of my knowledge, right, how I feel, right? And I want to be heard just like anyone else, right?
Yeah.
So if this isn't about being, I'm not trying to also be in politics, dive in of like, I know the answers. I'm going in there as a mother, help me to understand what's going on right now. What can we do? Because we're all at a loss right now. And I had the opportunity to do that. And I will say, he was so kind. And he listened to me. There was actually so much more in the interview that even happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was even longer than we even showed. He listened to like actual questions I had for my family and delivered responses and was there to just do the best to help me out. And I think that shows a lot, that he was willing to just have a conversation with me in my home. You know, and I think across the board, there's so much that needs to be heard.
Yeah, I like that you said there, like, he listened to me. I think that really fundamentally is what, regardless of the color of your skin, something we all have in common. We want to be listened to.
Absolutely.
We want to be understood.
Understood. Yeah.
We want to be seen, right? And we want to be valued for who we are and what we're bringing here to the world. As we go into the 4th of July, you know, the news media, and I'm in the news media, right? But we're just inundated with everything that's wrong with our country, everything that's wrong. And yet, to me, it's still the greatest country. We're free to have these conversations. We're free to vote. We have a free press. We have all of these things. If you could celebrate one thing about this country and or change one thing about it as we go in, what would it be? What would it be?
Ooh, that's a big question.
In truth, and I'm speaking honestly. You know, obviously, it's with how the complexities in my relation to this country. It's hard for me to be like, there's something I'd like to celebrate about. You know what I mean? It's just like you know. You know, if there's, you know, obviously if there's something that could change, it would be that, you know, that this country's entire history does not have racism interwoven in the entire way through it, from the moment that that Columbus and the first people that founded this land, and wiped out indigenous peoples from this entire place. It's hard. So I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. Obviously, I would change that. I celebrate contributions that we as Black people have made to this country, and namely something that is still not only providing entertainment, but also can be used as a political stance and political power, and even just a voice to be heard from the voiceless, and that is the art form of hip hop. And that came from Black people, Latino people. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that I can celebrate, but I wouldn't say that that's because that's this country's like that. That's made from Black people, from people of color. You know what I mean? So I don't know, Maria. I don't know if that's necessarily the right answer to that question, because I don't know if I can answer that question, to be quite honest. And the way that I feel right now,
Right now. So do you feel different right now going into this 4th of July? Do you feel different about your country? Do you feel hopeful about us as Americans?
No.
You don't?
Mm-mm. I feel it feels just honestly, this 4th of July feels it feels a bit heavier because there's more attention on it. Whereas, last 4th of July, like if you think a year ago, before we had nation and worldwide attention on everything that's going on, right? Everybody's kind of looking at the 4th of July a little different. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people are looking at the 4th of July a little different.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Right. So for me, it's like I still have the same outlook on it. It's still conflicted. It has been a day in the past, at least for me, for obviously everybody to get together and have barbecue and this and that. But what we're celebrating is a little it kind of cancels out to be celebrating independence, but not yet for us though. Like, it's Independence Day, but not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, so I still look at it as the same, and hopeful for what we find in the 4th of July, and what I don't know about that. I don't know. I think that's still a very very for lack of better phrase, it's a hot topic, because I'm also not disrespecting those that have served this country and served our flag. My grandfather, my uncle, my brother, they have all been in the military. They have all served this country. But you see the complexity and the conflict of that.
It's a paradox, right? It's a paradox. I think that's beautiful. You're holding the paradox. Like, it's a day of celebration of freedom, but I don't really feel that way.
Right.
I want to be hopeful, but a lot hasn't changed, or a lot would have to change for me to be hopeful. Right. And I often talk to my kids about trying to hold these paradoxes of kind and a big guy, right? A big, strong guy who's kind. A country that where people don't feel free, but it offers the promise of that. And so, but it's not there. So do you feel the same way, Allison, as you go into this? So people kind of, where do you find yourself going into this 4th of July?
Going into this 4th of July, I feel like what I am grateful for right now is that these conversations are the hot topic.
Yeah.
But what I need to have happen is, it not just when something else happens, it goes away now. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because like history shows, these conversations have all been had before, and then people were given the idea that there was going to be change, and so then we relied on those people to take action, and then now go 30, 40 years, we're actually just having to do the same thing again. So where I am hopeful and I'm grateful that these conversations are happening, I'm sitting back saying, which is exactly why I'm having conversations directly with someone like Biden, is we can't sit back anymore and expect them to make the change without us.
Right.
We have to keep moving forward. Huh?
Don't you feel it's different? I mean, don't you feel, Twitch, that it's different, that more people who might not have been involved before are involved? That more
yes, I do believe this.
Yeah.
When you look at Black Lives Matter and when you look at the people marching, it is no longer just people of color marching.
Yeah.
And all the people of color are starting to unify. And white people are starting to unify with them, side by side, hand in hand. And it seems like there's a lot more action being had. We need way more, obviously. But I feel like there actually is action being taken right now, especially with social media. There's a lot more tools for us to see what's actually going on, because we don't have to just rely on politicians or the news to inform us. We could be looking to our friends and family to inform us of what they actually are seeing on the forefront.
Yeah.
So I believe through the tool of social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, we actually have the tools now to see what's happening through our own eyes.
And I think as long as it continues to be looked at and regarded as a human problem and not just a Black problem, you know what I'm talking about? That the entire world looks at it as we're having a problem with humanity. Then it's not made into a novelty, right? It's not made into this like this subcategory of a problem. It's actually, no, this actually affects all of us, everyone. You know what I mean? And I think that is a huge difference right now, that, you know, with people being involved, because it's being looked at as a human problem. Not you don't have to be Black. You don't have to have Black friends to be like, yo, there's something wrong here, right? You know what I mean? And I think that's incredibly important.
A couple weeks ago, I talked to Lisa Leslie, who I've known and who's a real inspiration to me, about this letter she wrote called Dear America. And she put it so beautifully, where she was like, if we're all one family and you saw someone in your family being abused, being singled out, being treated unfairly, you would rise up. And so that I put it that simply: you have a brother or a sister in your family that's not being treated the same as someone else in your family. That should concern all of us as one human family.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so her letter called Dear America, I thought was so, I mean, it was obviously much bigger than what I just said, but
of course,
it kind of, I think the more these things are brought down to very basic things where people go like, oh, wow, she didn't put up her fingers.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right.
You know, there's somebody at my dinner table that's not being treated the same. I can understand that. And
absolutely.
One person at a time, we evolve.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
I think that's what you guys are doing. I think that's what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And I hope you feel, I hope on this 4th of July, you feel that you're moving the conversation, that you're inspiring change. Is it, you know, the change that you want to see by the 4th of July? No, right? This is, but you are, do you feel you've had an impact?
I mean, I think we've definitely had an impact. We've definitely, cause ripples however we can with the following that we've had. I think that, you know, just like you're doing right now too, it's just like, obviously we have these platforms where, you know, our voice can be heard and we can put out whatever content we would like. And the content that we have put out has inspired conversations, whether it's in somebody's home personally, or even in the comment section, even conversation that we're having right now, you know, between us. Is just like, I think that is what has kind of started the ripple, right? But again, you know, past the timeline of it being a hashtag and a trending topic, and the first thing that you see whenever you turn on your local news station, like the work is never done. It has to continuously keep going. And you know, and I want to say this too, because I'm as we're talking, I'm kind of seeing a little bit of like commentary here and there, and it's fine. But I just want to make sure that that this is said too. What we are doing right now, the three of us, is one of the most powerful weapons that we can use against what we're talking about right now, which is open-minded dialogue, right? Which is open-minded dialogue. And you know, I've been watching since the beginning, since we first came in. And there was a moment when you were saying that that like the country is free and like we have a free to do this. There's parts of that that I don't necessarily that I don't agree with, but at the same time, I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to take this moment on myself rather than trying to like jump up and do a rebuttal because at the surface I don't agree with you. Again, it's the conversation that we're having, right? Like, and I felt like some of that I was a little triggered by, so I get to now take that away and read up, think up, and dissect why that makes me feel that way. So then on the next conversation, I can actually put some words for like a tangible idea that can continue our conversation so we can then understand each other, and I'm not trying to change your mind, right? Like I think that's a huge thing that I think that I think maybe the country might benefit from as we're approaching this 4th of July, because of course there's going to be people that are going to be celebrating. Right. There are going to be people, but know that there is a conversation happening. Do you know what I'm saying?
I definitely understood when I said that. You said, but we don't really feel that way. So right. I'm not. I took, and I was like, wow, that's your experience. That's really true. We're right. the quote, the land of the free and the brave, as it says in our marketing. Right. But for millions of people, that's not the story. So right. I think you articulated it really well. I think when I said we're the land of the free and the brave, or you get to vote here, that's not enough, right? That's right. not, you don't feel the same sense of freedom that somebody else. You're like, wait a minute, that's not our story. That's not right. what we're at. And I think that's great, because that's right. your truth. And I think that's something, like when we're celebrating the 4th of July, I think people should be having that conversation. For millions of people, this is a really complex holiday.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. And very much so. Complex, so we can talk about that. So, like I could say at my dinner table, I had this really great conversation. So a lot of people, this is a triggering holiday. Because right. we're talking about freedom, and they're like, wait a minute, that's
right.
not freedom.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Right. 100%.
So, right. So I think that actually gives me, in a way, goosebumps. I love that. Of course, right. my kids always say, you love conversations that are like that. But I think that's how you shift, right? And I think every little shift is a good thing.
100%. Right? Well, yeah. I mean, that just you said it earlier. It's just gonna like one mind at a time. It's right. just the moment that, and then at some point in time, look, there's going to be a huge shift in paradigm and perspective. But we just have to do the little actions, and again, be open to conversation. It's just absolutely. Like and be open to conversation on topics that hold a very strong trigger for people. Do you know what I mean? And understandably so. On both sides, understandably so, but like the only way that we're going to get to it, obviously, because we've been fighting for a very long time, back and forth a very, very long time. The thing that really cuts through, again, is, and I sound like a broken record, it's the conversation, because and not until we can have dialogues to where we can do our best to lay our emotions down, can we actually reach an understanding with each other. And understanding doesn't even necessarily mean I agree with you. It's I understand. And then there's our son right there. Because we have to make the world a better place for this guy and his siblings.
That's why we're all here. That's why we're here. And I think people have just said thank you for this conversation. Thank you for listening. And I think I'm happy to have it anytime.
Right.
Continue it, because I think what you're saying, we're fighting. I think the goal here is that we're listening. We all want the same things, right? I want to be with you 10 years from now where you're like, 4th of July, I feel good. Yeah. Right? I feel like we made progress. And I want to be like, wow, remember 10 years ago when we were talking, what that was like? And it might take, as I always try to say to my kids, persistence, 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 right? People fought for healthcare for 50, 60 years. People fought for women's rights. We're still fighting, right?
Right.
So, I mean, these things go on for generations, but we're all here to make it better. As I say to my kids, what I'm doing hopefully will make it better for your generation, and then you'll pick up the baton and you'll share it, and then you'll continue on with it, right?
Exactly. And really, we want to say thank you to what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Having these conversations is the first step, and allowing people to hear and listen in, because that can be scary for someone, because you're going to get so much dialogue in the comments, and some people might not agree, but that is the whole point right here.
That's the best conversation I've ever heard on IG Live. So there you go.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
great.
we can keep it going anytime. And if you want to pick up the trigger, if you want to pick up any part of it, let's do that. Because I think, you know, on the Sunday paper, this is my weekly newsletter, we're going to put this in there. And I always say that, you know, my goal is to inspire hearts and minds and to move humanity forward one person at a time. And that usually happens through
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's that small.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. 100%.
So I'll be having a different conversation on July 4th because of this conversation.
Absolutely.
So I thank you both, all three of you.
Thank you, Mary. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I hope you have a really great day.
Much. I appreciate it, and have the kind of holiday you want to have.
Hey, thank everybody for watching too, man. Thank y'all and thank you so much for having us on, Maria. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So there we are. Well, they were great as always. I think it's such an important thing to be able to have conversations across generations, across race, across gender. That's how we all move forward. That's what moves humanity forward, one person at a time, having conversations, being open, being courageous enough to say, like he said, you know, that conversation triggers me, or I don't like when you say that. Or I always say to my kids, communication, communication, communication. Be able to communicate at work, be able to communicate at home, be able to communicate if you're in an intimate relationship, be able to communicate if you're in a political conversation. So one love, I agree. I really wish everyone was open to having these kinds of conversations too. I agree with you. And, but we can have them here, and you can have them at home, and then we can pass them on or pass them forward. So Twitch was so honest. Yes, he was. He really was honest. And I love that. Those are my favorite types of conversations. My kids sometimes say like, "Ooh, mommy, these conversations are uncomfortable." I'm like, no, because they're deep and they're meaningful and they're honest and they're life shifting and heart opening. So thank you to both of them. Happy July 4th to all of you. May God bless you. May you celebrate this holiday however you feel. And if you don't feel like celebrating it, I get that too. Thanks so much for joining us today. God bless. Bye.